This is the injury report presented by NYU Langone Health. Olympic medalist Lindsey Vonn is known as the Iron Woman of alpine skiing, but just days ago she completely ruptured her ACL in her left knee, along with a lot of bone bruising and meniscal damage. So in today's injury report, we're talking to Dr. Laith Jazrawi, Sports Orthopedic Surgeon at NYU Langone, because Lindsey basically said a busted knee is not going to keep her out of the Olympics. Doc, that was just my paraphrase, and thanks for coming back on. Long time no see. So let's break this down, because completely ruptured ACL, bone bruising, and meniscus damage, it was serious enough to where you can see in this video she had to be airlifted by a helicopter. When I think of ACL injuries, it's usually like basketball and football players. So what happened to Lindsey's knee in that fall, and how bad was it?
Well, look, it's ski season, right? Here, it's winter here in New York City. We've got a ton of ACLs coming in. So really that idea that we see it just in basketball and football players is wrong. The most common ACL injured patient that comes into my office is anywhere from a novice skier to an advanced skier now, depending on how aggressive they are on the slopes. And the bottom line is that just think about it. You got these two sticks. You're riding down the slopes, and in sometimes icy conditions, your knee could give, twist, and that's how you tear your ACL. In the case of Lindsey, as she was going down, if you look closely at the video, she doesn't have the classic real big twisting injury that you would see in some of the ACL tears. It's more she comes down, she almost hyperflexes the knee, and it looks like it goes right there on the left side. Now, that would point to a potentially lower grade ACL injury without all the other ligaments that can be torn that make it much more challenging to actually compete. An isolated ACL tear in the past, there were a group of patients that would be able to compete with a brace on and do so at a high level. She may be one of them. They're probably going to brace her. The ACL tear is probably in isolation with some of the meniscus pathology without any other concurrent ligament damage, which she can do it. You know, her quads are strong. She's an elite athlete. There's a chance.
When I think ACL injury, I'm glad you kind of cleared that up, because I think Malik Neighbors tore his ACL against the Chargers. He was out for the rest of the season. But Lindsey, she's got dog in her. She still wants to compete. She spoke about the injury and how she still wants to be out there despite the injury. So here's what Lindsey said that I want to get your thoughts on Lindsey Vonn
Yeah.
competing.
I'm not letting this slip through my fingers. I'm going to do it. End of story. So I'm not letting myself go down that path. I'm not crying. My head is high. I'm standing tall. And I'm going to do my best. And whatever the result is, that's what it is. But you can never say I didn't try.
All right. They don't call her the Iron Woman for nothing, Doc. So, but how dangerous is it for her to compete in the Winter Olympics with this ACL injury?
Look, she made a big point on some of the comments that she put out there that her docs tell her that her knee is stable. So these ACL tears come in a lot of flavors and lots of degrees of looseness in the knee. She didn't have any major swelling in her knee, which was a good sign, which means that it was a lower grade type of injury. And when you have a lot of swelling in the knee, your quad shut down. And that can be a major challenge, especially with the type of skiing and how aggressive she is. If indeed she didn't have much swelling in the knee, and in fact, her ACL tear was one of these lower impact type of things where there wasn't much bleeding. So most of the fibers were torn, maybe a few are hanging on. There's a possibility she can do it. Again, her sport, tough. There's going to be a lot of twisting coming down, the slopes. And in her practice run, she's going to get a sense if she can bear weight and bear the forces that come with going down the hill. So she'll know pretty quickly if she's able to do it.
What is her doctors and coaching staff like? What are they looking for throughout the course of these trial runs?
Yeah, I think obviously they're looking to see how she's favoring it. And really, they're going to ask her, how do you feel coming down? Do you feel like your knee is slipping out? Are you able to dig that ski into the snow to provide the turning ability that you need to do? And it's absolute that she's going to need to dig that left ski in to do some of her turns. And it gets back to, if she doesn't have any concurrent ligament tears other than the ACL, she may very, well be able to do that. And if she doesn't have this thing called rotational instability, some ACL tears, you don't have as much rotational instability, which leads to some success. And there's been a long litany of players who have played at elite levels without an ACL. The one that comes to mind after reading his book, Reggie Jackson, right?
Yep.
He tore his ACL early on in his career with the Oakland A's. By the time he came to the Yankees, he had a completely deficient ACL knee. Yet he went on to hit 4 home runs, as we know, in the World Series against the Dodgers. So it is possible. And he played outfield, did a lot of stress on that knee, but he was probably one that we called a coper, that he didn't have that much instability or rotational instability related to it. And these athletes know. She knows if she's going to be able to do it or not. The fact that she could probably walk, and she certainly skied down the rest of the slopes, that was a good sign. Getting airlifted out of there, I think is, I don't know the situation there, how much more she would have had to ski, or whether they airlifted her right to the hospital to get the MRI. So we don't know the full story. But, based on what she's saying, I'm confident she's going to be able to do it with an ACL functional brace.
I like to think about the mental hurdle we athletes have to kind of overcome when it involves our knee. I tore my meniscus when I was playing in the CFL. I'm gonna be honest with you, Doc. Like I couldn't get over that mental hurdle on when I was coming down with the football, if my knee was going to kind of be okay and not give in. And I probably had one of my worst professional seasons I had, as a professional athlete. So mentally, what's going to be going through her head as she's competing at a high level, elite level, like the Olympics? And is that something that doctors and Lindsey should be worried about?
Look, I think it's a win-win for her, right? Look, she's a warrior. She's going to do it. Even if she fails trying, right? She tried. It's her last shot.
Yep.
She said this is her last Olympics. So for me, from a psychological standpoint, everything is in her favor. She doesn't do it or can't do it, she's a warrior for trying. She does it, gets through it, actually medals, she goes down in history as one of the most incredible athletes to have ever skied. So for me, it's all win for her. And unlike you, who had a whole season to think about it, she's got this one event. This is her last event. So I think it's a little different. And I think everything is, in the momentum is on her side.
It's her last dance. I smell Netflix special if she's able to pull this off in the win.
Americans love a comeback.
Absolutely.
People love a comeback in the Olympics. People are going to watch this now. It's like you couldn't have written it any better. She's brilliant.
Absolutely. And you talk about how there's been a rise in ACL injuries in you guys' office because, it is winter ski season. What about the non-professional athletes out there? What about us regular New Yorkers who feel like we got to ski to get through our cars through all this snow and get down the sidewalk? If someone was to tear their ACL and they're not a professional athlete, how would you treat the patient with this injury?
It's a great question. Look, you need your ACL if you're younger and want to do some type of pivoting or cutting sport like basketball, even tennis, you need that ACL. But the idea is that most patients will come in and complain that they feel like their knee is slipping if they start to pivot. Dancers, same thing. As they're twisting, they feel that. Now, there are certain patients, and it's rare, that don't feel like that. And certainly when I examine the knee and I don't get a sense of a tremendous looseness, there's an opportunity for that patient to delay their surgery a little bit. But even if you don't feel that looseness, under those extreme stresses of pivoting the knee, patients will feel it. And that's always the challenge. And that's why, for the most part, in the United States, most patients, 99%, are getting their ACL reconstructed after they tear it. They want to be active. They want to go and continue their sports that they're playing. Now, there are a few isolated cases in just joggers or people that want to do very limited inline type of activities. And sometimes there's a role for non-operative treatment, but it's very rare.
This was very informative and very entertaining, Doc. I really appreciate this. I learned a lot, and now Lindsey Vonn has a lot of fans now, or just gained a lot of fans that are going to watch just to see if she can pull this thing off. So we appreciate
it's
you,
going
Doc.
to look, it's going to be exciting. I'm certainly going to watch it, and I wasn't going to watch it to begin with, but now I'm going to see if her knee could hold up.
There we go. Appreciate you, Doc.
All right, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.